All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another Ask Philip, our bi-weekly live Q&A here in the Wits and Weights Facebook group. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you for checking out my channel. Please give me a subscribe and check out our group as well. If you want to ask a question or just throw a comment below, always happy to chime in with a pretty quick response. So today we're going to address a question about the steak and eggs diet and how to transition from a rapid fat loss phase into a more sustainable fat loss approach by one of our longtime community members who's got a lot of stuff dialed in, but he's still trying to find a simple diet that works for him. So we're going to address that today. Before I do, some quick announcements. First of all, here in the group, which by the way, if you're watching this and you're not in the group, just go look up Wits and Weights on Facebook, or I'll have the link in the description. But a couple things going on. Monday night, December 23rd, I am going to be live streaming the podcast recording for an episode that's not coming out till January 6th. So exclusive to this group, you're going to get a free or an early preview of this episode where I'm talking about 6 core strategies to lose fat and how to select the best one to personalize it. It goes with a guide that I recently created, and I wanted to give that to you guys first here exclusively for being in the group. And then as far as the podcast this week, you can check these out. Some of these episodes are audio only and some are on YouTube and on audio. But the episodes this week, we've got 3 of them. First on Monday is one that I'm really proud of. It's called The Most Underrated Fat Loss Secret Making You Fatter. And really, this is about gaining weight. It's about the fear of gaining weight because you think you're going to gain too much fat. And I break that down and talk about the reasons why this is important and some of the details behind that, as well as a link to the guide that gives you all the step-by-step on how to do it. So a little psychology, a little how-to. I think you're really going to enjoy that one. Next Monday, there's a episode about your 12-month plan for 2025. So I break down all the phases of your nutrition and training if you were to do it over 12 months with both fat loss and muscle gain. And then finally in January 6th, which I think is a couple weeks after that, will be the fat loss episode, the 6 ways, which again, I'm showing you guys early here in the community. Wednesday, we had our second ever Tinsel the Elf Tinsel the Elf story. This one is a bit longer, more detailed, a bit quirkier. I tried to have some more of my silly humor in there. You know, some jokes may have fell flat. Some you might crack up at. Hopefully it's inspiring, fun, enjoyable, entertaining, all those things. Definitely check that out. That is audio only. And then just today, an episode came out with Dr. Matt Dawson. He's the co-CEO of Wild Health, which is a precision medicine company. And this guy's really great. He's definitely has an evidence-based lens on using genetics. He doesn't just dive in and come up with all these quirky things that influencers try to claim when it comes to DNA and your diet. So this is definitely a well-reasoned evidence-based discussion we had about lifestyle versus genetics versus both, and where it all makes sense and what you can learn about yourself using some genetic testing. So, which I did myself personally as well. And I thought it was super illuminating. So check those out this week. Now let's just jump right in without wasting more time into this week's Ask Philip, #AskPhilip, which is a thread posted every other week. Looks just like this. It asks you to post your question below and I will answer it. So today we have a really good question from John. And he says, currently I'm finishing up my second go around with your rapid fat loss protocol. I'll post results on Monday. Cool. Looking forward to seeing that. I love data, and maybe we could use that as a case study. It would be awesome. But for those of you who don't know about that protocol, it is something I've covered on the podcast before. But if you go to witsandweights.com/free, and then you find it right here, go ahead and download this. It's got the entire protocol, and I think it has links to the episodes where we discussed this. I also discussed it with Dr. Bill Campbell, who was the original inspiration for it. But basically, it's in a very aggressive. I'm giving you all this context. John knows, obviously, but for you guys watching and listening, it's a very aggressive fat loss protocol. It takes about 2 weeks. You go extremely aggressive for 4 days, then a day refeed, and then you repeat it, and then a refeed, and then you repeat it once more, and you're done. So it's 12 days of like a 50% deficit, and then within that, you've got a couple refeed days. So it's designed for people who know what they're doing, who have things dialed in, who know how to be consistent, hit their protein, not for beginners at all. It's also one of the protocols I talk about in the 6 ways to lose fat that's coming out. So, anyway, continuing John's question. After the rapid fat loss protocol, I was going to bump calories up to a more sustainable fat loss diet until January. I'm looking for something different to follow for that time. So normally I would say after the rapid fat loss phase, John, normally I tell people to not even continue dieting, to just go back to maintenance for like a month to get fully recovered. But there's nothing wrong with continuing as long as, like you said, you do it in a sustainable, less aggressive way so you don't lose muscle mass. I was intrigued by the Vince Gironda diet, basically eating eggs and steak and then one big carb meal every 3 to 5 days. So it's interesting. It's like a lot of protein and fat from a very limited set of foods, which you couldn't pick two of the best foods, two better foods than the steak and eggs, to be honest. Which reminds me, just a quick story. I remember coming home years ago from a business trip. It was just a road trip, and I was hungry. I was starving, and I found this roadside diner. And I went into the diner. I was the only one in there. And they had steak and eggs on the menu. Not only was it steak and eggs, it was ribeye, like Delmonico steak, some people call it ribeye. It was like $8. We're only talking 10 years ago. I know there's been inflation, but it hasn't been that much. It was like $8. And it was this massive, like 16-ounce ribeye covered with eggs. I'm telling you, I can never find a deal like that. I don't know how they made money. It was awesome. It was delicious. If I lived near there, I would just have that every day for my protein. Okay. So anyway, this diet's very interesting. So it sounds a lot like, actually, I think you mentioned it later. It sounds like a keto cycle with carb refeeds, kind of what you said was. And you said, I've read that sometimes he allowed his guys to have fruit at dinner. Allowed. Oh, okay. You need permission to have fruit. You don't need permission to have fruit. I know you know that, John. Not that I can afford that much steak or looking to eat 12 plus eggs a day. Not saying that I wouldn't eat a bunch of eggs, though, but I'm intrigued by the idea of eggs and meat as a majority of the diet. Yeah, it's like carnivore. I mean, there's guys in here that can talk to you about carnivore. That's effectively what it is. Just eat a bunch of meat, eat and don't eat many plants. I don't think it's a great idea at all for a lot of reasons, and I've talked about that before. Mainly because you're going to lack a lot of nutrients and variety and the sustainability and on and on and on. However, it just seems like a version of a keto diet with carb refeeds. For training, I've tried keto in the past. It felt good during the day, but it was terrible for weight training and really hard to follow, something I want to avoid. Okay, good, great. You know not to do that then. Don't do it. If you're a lifter, it's generally not a good idea to go to these extremes and to also I think you should be having carbs every day. I don't like the idea of extreme carb cycling. I'm okay with moderate carb cycling, but extreme carb cycling, you end up sapping away energy from the off days, from the recovery days, which are still important for the muscle sparing, for the recovery, for the energy, and so on. Not to mention just having a balanced diet that is not kind of ridiculous, right? Like, and I mean that in a kind way, but seriously, if you've got a social life, if you've got people that you eat food with, it's kind of hard to maintain a diet like that. Really, I'm looking for something different to do. I know there are 1,000,001 named diets, but something has me drawn to the old school methods of eating right now. Just wanted to know your thoughts as what direction I can go once I complete the rapid fat loss protocol. Edit. Looking for something simple and basic to follow that doesn't need a lot of mental energy, with very early morning workouts, 3:30 to 4 a.m. Holy crap. And the fun of the holidays and home stress. Nutrition needs to be simple for me right now, and a plan that I can easily add carbs to when I want to start gaining weight again. So I'm going to assume, John, that you are tracking in some way. Obviously, I like Macrofactor, but however you're tracking, you would have had to do the rapid fat loss protocol accurately. You would have had to at least be weighing your food or tracking your food to know that you're in that deficit. And you also have to know what your maintenance calories are. So I'm going to assume that, and then I'm going to go to some notes that I created for this and kind of see if there's points that I hadn't touched on yet. So starting with the Vince Gironda diet, I've already touched on the fact that it is a cyclical ketogenic diet. It's got high protein, high fat days, and then strategic carb days, which are kind of refeeds. I'm going to assume that the high protein fat maybe are lower calorie and the carb meals are higher, but I'm not 100% sure because it doesn't specify. I think a lot of these named diets, they are simple on paper and they make you miserable in reality. So they sell really well because you could have a list of foods to eat and not eat, or just eat this meal plan. And in reality, you're like, oh man, now I can't eat this, 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 this. What if I want to eat this? What if I don't have a choice over here? Blah, blah, right? The list goes on and on. That is the opposite of sustainability. You also acknowledge that for training, it's just not going to work. I mean, these low carb days are going to leave you struggling. And even with the refeeds, it can be an issue. You're just going all over the place. I've also found that a lack of consistency like that can cause your metabolism to clamp down versus if you eat more consistently. And then, of course, if the diet's just overly restrictive, if it's monotonous, I don't like boring. I love food, man. I love food, and I'm not going to stick to anything where the food choice is limited. So what I'd recommend instead, you want something simple, you want something effective. Um, you're going to have to come up with some simple templates for you, a couple meal plans, okay? And just build it out. Just build it out with some basic things that you shop for and you like, including steak and eggs, obviously. You love those, so include them. Build your meals around those lean proteins. Build them around the nutrient dense, the high fiber carbs, right? 2 for 1. So I think like as far as protein options go, chicken breast, chicken thigh, lean beef, eggs, all the dairy options, Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, all the grains and plants that have protein, and then nutrient dense carbs, potatoes, rice, oats, fruit, right? The list goes on and on. Using fats sparingly, like olive oil, butter, just kind of the normal thing and keeping it balanced. And since you work out early, my suggestion is something very quick and digestible before you work out, right? My go-to for that is a banana and whey protein. Within a half hour before you work out, or even 10 minutes before, and as you start your workout, it's digesting. That's cool, right? 30 minutes before is even better. That's what I would start with there. I would set, since you're tracking and you're trying to stay in a fat loss phase, your protein's going to have to be reasonably high as normal. And your carbs come down fairly low anyway. And that is why I actually like keeping the carbs the same most days, but on your training days, making sure to have them around your workout. And if you feel like you need to shift it, there's 2 ways to shift. One is just shift more carbs to your training day. The other is to just, what was I going to say? The other is to reduce some protein and give yourself more carbs. Now that's the amount. As far as the simplicity, I would say have a training day meal plan and a non-training day meal plan. If you need a third meal plan, it would be I'm going to go out to eat on Saturday's meal plan, right? It's your what some people used to call cheat day. I don't like that phrase at all, but kind of your deviation, your refeed day, whatever you want to call it. And you have 2 or 3 of these meal plans floating around that you follow. If you like the old school vibe, then what are we talking about old school? It's really whole unprocessed foods, a simple limited selection of things that you like, and you just eat on rinse and repeat, copy and paste, right? Rinse and repeat, copy and paste. Eggs and meat for breakfast, right? Steak and eggs. Salad with chicken and avocado for lunch. A carb-focused dinner with some protein and fruit. Very simple. Just keep it simple. And then you could pre-log them or create a rotation and then just copy and paste, repeat it, right? That's it. That's what I would suggest. It gives you this simplicity. It lets you choose what goes in there. I'm not going to give you that exact meal plan, honestly, because I don't know what you like. If you were a client, I also wouldn't necessarily give you a meal plan. I would give you a template. I'd give you a list of foods to choose from. And I'd say, pick what you like, and then let's put it together. Go into Macro Factor, pre-log it, see if it meets all your macros and calories. And then you can copy and paste that, or you can save it as like a recipe. Literally save the whole day as a recipe if you want. So I hope that answers your question. And really anybody else watching who's like, what do I do? I don't think I missed anything. Did I? If I did, just comment below. If you're watching this video, you have follow-ups, comment below. If you want your question answered in the future, a comment on the Ask Philip thread. And I think that's it. So we're coming up to the holidays. I'm wishing everybody happy holidays. Merry Christmas. I celebrate Christmas, so I'm going to say Merry Christmas. Happy New Year's. Enjoy the break if you have it. Enjoy some stress relieving moments if you can get them. And have fun with the food. Have fun with the food. Get ready for a new year. I'm going to be dropping some awesome content to get everybody psyched up and planning and thinking about putting in the work and succeeding next year like you've never had before. I look forward to doing that with y'all, and we'll talk soon.